Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have with me today Sarika Jain, and she is a love and relationship coach and also the creator of the Sacred Soulmate system. And she's also a yoga teacher and spiritual healer. So welcome, Sarika. So happy to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the springtime in New York City.
Awesome. So can you tell us, tell the listeners here a little bit about your story and a little bit about your work and your company and what you do?
Sure. So I started actually coaching women and dating almost 8 years ago, or 10 years ago, actually, on the side of my day job. So I used to work in the business world and in management consulting, and I really wanted to find my life partner. So I went through all these courses. I even had a coach, and I was just like gung-ho about it. I never had a problem attracting men or getting dates or having relationships, but I did have a tough time keeping a relationship. Like I would always get my heart broken. So anyways, I met an amazing man and I started coaching other women in dating. And then I got engaged to this man. He was everything on my checklist. And within a year of us dating, we got engaged. And then a month after we got engaged, he broke up with me. So this was back in 2011, 2012. And I was so heartbroken. I was like devastated. All my dreams, everything had been completely just taken away from me. And I felt like dying. I felt like killing myself, actually. I just felt so devastated and heartbroken. And that night, well, actually, I begged him to ask, like, why? Like, can't we make this work? You know, we'd already gone to a therapist and all that stuff. And he's like, honestly, Sarika, I don't trust you. You're too controlling. You keep people at a distance from you. I don't trust you. And you still have some psychological issues to sort through. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just like every New York woman. I don't understand what he means by that, you know? And so that night, a voice came from my heart that said, I need spiritual healing. And I didn't know what that meant. And so the very next day I met a healer and she read my energy field and she said, well, it looks like you're a magnet for heartbreak. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, like you have so much toxic thinking. You keep settling in your life, in your career, in your love life, and your heart and your sacral chakras are blocked. You're not aligned with your vision. And so, yeah, and if you keep going down this path, you're just going to keep attracting the same patterns over and over in your love life. And you have to figure out why this relationship didn't work.
Yeah.
So I plunged. I gave her $20,000 to start with. Crazy, I know. But you know, when you're ready, you're ready. I took the leap of faith. And I started this deep healing work, getting into meditation and yoga and healing, like almost like on an alchemical level, and forgiveness, lots of self-acceptance, and just understanding where all my deep-seated insecurities and controllingness and everything came from. And finally, a few months later, I was able to release this man energetically from my life and be happy. And I started dating again in a more joyful way. And I met a wonderful man. Yeah. And so basically this man and I, his name is Krishan, we're now married. We had our dream wedding in my parents' hometown in India. And 2 years ago, I got guided into offering this service to other women, who want to live their dream life and attract their soulmate and live joyfully and consciously. So that's the service that I offer right now to women.
Beautiful. Love that. And thank you for opening up and sharing your story. That's awesome. That, you know, it's really how we are able to give back to women and all that is really our own experience. And it's hard to relate, especially in your field, if you don't go through that heartbreak. So all those lessons, and I love that you're turning that around and giving that gift back to women. So that's amazing. Save them years of heartache, you know?
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, that's my dream, is like just help people. On average, people experience 3 heartbreaks in their lifetime.
Wow.
And I know that heartbreak can be physiologically damaging, psychologically, emotionally. I mean, it's something that romantic heartbreak can last a lifetime. And even in my studies, I've seen that 67% of women haven't let go of an ex.
Wow.
So, yeah, at least according to the survey respondents for my survey. And I'm just, I think that it's really important that we release our past so that we can really open up to the beloved relationship that we're meant for.
For sure. Absolutely. And that really is the key, unblocking those blocks and healing from those past wounds so that we're showing up differently and we are becoming magnetic and attracting a whole new type of relationship. And that starts with us, and it starts with being who we want to be, not finding what we want, but being that.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
Be the lover you want to attract. Absolutely.
Love that. So what or how do women block themselves, or that you find in your work, from love?
Well, I think the very first block that I've seen is our level of self-judgment and self-criticism. I find that most women, it's just our number one block. We're our worst enemies. We have an internal stepmother, and you might not be conscious of it because it's so normal in our neurotic society where we keep comparing ourselves to others and judging ourselves. So I would say the first is a mental block about how much we love ourselves. And then some other blocks I've seen are kind of like throat chakra, like not being able to speak one's truth, feelings and needs. So we repress. So I see a lot of women going between bitch and doormat, repressing their feelings and then blah, just bursting out. And that can scare men, literally. I've done that a million times, which is probably why it's hard to create emotional safety with a man if they don't trust you, if they don't know when you're going to blow up at them, right? If you're not being authentic. And some other ways that I've seen women block themselves is like not really being open, like being guarded, being afraid of being vulnerable, getting hurt again. And that can come from childhood, that can come from past relationships. And then, our relationship with power and love, I think there's a systemic change. And I think it's great that you're doing this powerful and feminine telesummit, because this is what we're really struggling with, is being, our power center. We want to be loving, but we want to be powerful. And there seems to be this inner conflict between being those two things and seeing being loving and nurturing as being powerful. Especially since I work in the corporate world, or I did work in the corporate world, and I see that conflict that many of us have, and then sexually, many women, we might carry trauma, sexual trauma, or we might be afraid of expressing ourselves sexually, or we might give ourselves away sexually. And there's just so much repression of sexual energy, or just misuse of sexual energy. And that also can be a block. And there are some other blocks, but, there are some, energetic blocks I've seen. I ask a lot of women, what's your relationship between your masculine and your feminine, or how feminine or how masculine do you feel? And most women are like, I feel mostly masculine, and that's also a block, right? So there's lots of ways we block ourselves. But yeah, those are some of the ways. And then one obvious one is just being too busy. A lot of women, I know that we're very passionate and we're on our path to self-actualization. And we also want to live a blissful, passionate life. But sometimes we tend to become too busy to date, too busy for our relationships, and not nurturing our relationships enough. Not even just not even dating, just our friends, our family, ourselves. The juiciness that comes from just nourishing our relationships.
Yeah, for sure. And that totally makes sense. And, it's for me, the path that I went on, I was super guarded, and I had closed my heart from past heartbreak. So that totally made sense with how you were saying, with the blockages there. And I wasn't even aware of how I was showing up in the relationships and causing that emotional instability and being controlling and living in my head because I felt like I had to be that masculine energy, and that just repels men. And until I went through a lot of this healing myself and through all that work, I realized, wow, like I did not realize I was showing up like 90% masculine in relationships. It was no wonder there was no balance. And so you forget to be that graceful feminine, but very powerful. And I think that's very, very unique, because it's a fine line. Like, how do you be that feminine energy, but balance power at the same time without being a doormat or a pushover, or, you know, still owning your voice, still stepping into your power. So Sarika, what does it mean to you to live powerful and feminine?
Okay. That's a really good question. I think the first thing for me in terms of power is just feeling a sense of creative control of my life. And I don't like using the word control, but just living a more intentional life, taking risks, being myself, loving myself, being myself, living authentically, even if society doesn't approve, even if, you know, my corporate, you know, if I were in a corporate job, even if they're like, they don't completely approve. So it's almost like owning my own path, whatever that might be, right? And working consciously to create the kind of life that you want, the kind of partnership that you want. And sometimes that means that you kind of have to open up your vision, open up your third eye, open up your heart, right? Sometimes we might be blocked from what that vision is. And so we tend to live inauthentically, and that feels powerless. It almost feels like we're a victim, you know? And that's actually a very feminine thing, is to live from a state of pleasure, live from a state of joy, and be loving, being kind, being compassionate. Like, these are basic feminine principles, being grounded, being embodied, being sexual, being sensual, right? These feminine principles are ones that we've shunned away because, you know, I read this book one time, because I was trying to rise up the corporate ladder. And so I read all sorts of books, right? Like, Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, or I forget, like there were like several of those books, and they said, like, don't be nurturing, like don't bring cupcakes to work. And I find that actually kind of sad, you know, like, why should women have to suppress that side? So all I can say is, like, if something feels authentic to you, and even if it's small baby steps, just start doing it, right? And honoring that. And in that sense, you will start feeling powerful in your life.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. Yeah, that's so true. And so many women relate to that. And also being in the corporate world, like you're saying, like how you read these books, and society teaches you to really be masculine, and you get so programmed kind of to be that way, but then that's not working in the relationships, and it ends up being very confusing messages, I think, for women. So
and I'll say it's not just us women in the corporate world, it's entrepreneurs. Like, I remember when I first started my entrepreneurship journey, I was like mean to I was a masculine presence in my life. I was like a taskmaster. I didn't have a life. Like, I was jeopardizing my relationship, you know, because I wasn't allowing my feminine side to come out, you know? So in a way, it was also about, no matter what line of work a woman does, it has to feel balanced. It has to feel juicy. It has to feel intentional, and support both the feminine and the masculine qualities in each of us.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I remind myself a lot too, when I get into that masculine, and because with work, there's a time that you got to be masculine. There's a time that you got to shut it off. And what helps me shift is, okay, open up and receive, be a receiver. Because a lot of women have a hard time receiving it and receiving the love. And they only get so far, you know, especially with relationships, because they are blocking the love. And it's instead of just being that receiver of love that really helps, because it's so important to feel the love and to receive it. Otherwise, you don't really know, you're not really showing up as that that woman. So
Absolutely. And that's actually a huge block for women too, is receiving love.
mm-hmm.
My husband tells me that I'm great at receiving love. Like I'll be like, I love a massage. And then he'll give me a massage and I'll be like, ooh, this feels great. And he's like, man, you really know how to receive. And I'm like, yeah, like, why not? You know, ask people for help, like get help, do, receive money with grace, receive gifts with grace, receive love with gratitude. I mean, absolutely. Receiving is our feminine power, actually. I mean, I love that you just said that.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. And that was hard for me. And I struggled with receiving for a long, long time. And that was a huge block for me. And I never understood that. They're like, okay, well, you have a block in receiving. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, and it's like, you don't absorb it into your body and into your soul and into your spirit and into to your whole being. And so I never really experienced what love felt like. Or like you said, like actually getting a massage and actually feeling worthy of that massage, feeling worthy of that intimacy and that connection. And it really changed the whole game once you really got into that energy and open those doors and open that heart to receive. And it just was like, oh, this is what it feels like. So yeah, amazing that that you're able to help women and unlock that and unblock that, and such an important work. So important.
Thank you.
Yeah. Love
and
that.
I think what's interesting is we like sometimes we think we need to receive love in a certain way or from a certain person. And I think what you were just talking about is like that full bodied, just gracefully receiving love from however the universe. I remember this one time after my breakup when I just felt completely loveless. Like I felt ugly. I felt like a blob. Like I was just like, ew, I'm so unworthy. And, you know, that's just how I felt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I met this healer, the psychic, and she's like, first of all, your heart's opening. It's not, you know, it's like you're actually experiencing a heartbreak opening.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much love flowing to you from the universe and you don't even realize it. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm actually, there's so much love flowing to me. And that's a cool idea, you know? So yeah, I think that's beautiful.
Yes. And I love that healing. I love that you do that healing. I'm so into all of that energy and the healing and the yoga. And it's just so calming and so centering to be in that work. So could you give us an example of what you would take and some strategies with a woman that you are doing some healing work with, and what that looks like for them, and kind of the steps that you take them on to open back up again and heal from the inside out?
Yeah. So I have a 5-step program and almost all my clients go through that. The first step is called Be a Love Magnet. So that the first step is learning how to receive love with grace and stop the self-judgment and self-criticism. So I give tools and meditations and things like that around that. And immediately women start seeing like a shift in their energy, you know, like kinds of attention that they get. Like you start radiating when you start generating love from within you, right? Then the second step is heal your heart and close your X files. So that one has to do with releasing cords and grievances and resentment and anger from your parents, your childhood, your exes, you know, in several cases, right? And just becoming baggage free, right? And it's a ritual. I really feel rituals are really important in our world today. Like we can't expect everything to happen like this. There's no magic bullet here, but it is kind of like a bit of a shamanic journey of like following certain rituals and just releasing. And yeah. And then the third step is discover your wow factor. So yeah. So each one of us is unique. And as women, when we step into our unique selves, our femininity, our sexuality, we feel wow. You know, we're wowed by ourselves. We're turned on by ourselves. And that's a very powerful place to be for women.
Yeah.
And then the fourth step is about prepare for love. And that one is about learning the right, it's almost like growing your relationship consciousness so that you can attract a relationship to that level. You know, with I teach feng shui principles around inviting love, and then relationship skills, communication skills. So when you do meet the right partner, or even in the dating process, you're actually like using these skills to draw men to you, right? And because the number one complaint I get from women is like, why do men withdraw, right? Like that is the number one like question, right? And so we almost have to learn certain skills and ninja tricks to make sure that they don't withdraw for, you know, men can go in their caves, that's fine. We all go in our caves, but how do we unconsciously or consciously push men away, you know?
And then I think that's so important too, because it's like you panic when they start to withdraw, and then you actually put them out any more, and then like you're sending them 20 messages and sitting and blowing up and freaking out and triggered here, triggered there, and then pretty soon it's like whoa, 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 whoa. So that's
yeah, like your reptilian brain goes out of control, right? It just brings up all your insecurities, your panic.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I teach mindfulness. Mindfulness is a big part of the work. I mean, I think mindfulness is really supportive to women, especially because we just get back in our bodies and we're just slow down. And men find it attractive, you know, like when I practice mindfulness, or when I first started dating my husband, I met him in a mindfulness group actually. And I was just slow and seductive. And, you know, like when I'd eat, I'd close my eyes and eat. And like, he was just like mesmerized by me, you know? And I wasn't even doing it to attract anyone. I was just like in the moment, you know? And that kind of presence is alluring, you know? And then the fifth step is around dating with confidence. So I teach practical skills and how to date online and offline, what triggers to look out for in men. Like so many times we settle for the wrong guys because they fit some sort of checklist, you know, and whatnot. Or we reject an amazing man. Like, oh my God, how many clients I've had who've almost released an amazing man because oh my God.
That's self-sabotaging. It's like if you're not done with your inner work and you're not in a good place, it doesn't matter who's showing up. You can have I hate to say Prince Charming, but really your soulmate show up. And if you're not ready, you're going to sabotage it.
You're going to sabotage it. And your soulmate will trigger you. Like that's why your soulmate comes into your life. He's there to be your healing partner. And you got to be ready for that.
Yeah. Cause it is work. But once you're aware and discover your own self and your triggers, it makes it much more easier to balance and to bounce back instead of it carrying on and getting inside your body and staying there.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like turning into a trauma structure inside your body. Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah. Causing dis-ease for real.
Exactly. Or like shutting, you know, when my ex broke up with me, my healer said, you're going to be bitter the rest of your life. If you don't take action now, you're just going to be jaded and bitter. And I really could see myself like in these two paths because I'd been heartbroken too many times to really invest in something else fully again, you know, or to believe. I mean, I meet a lot of women who don't believe in love, and and that breaks my heart because 50% of adults in the US are single. They're looking. Everyone I meet is looking for their soulmate. Everyone. Like, I can't even think, I mean, there's maybe a few. I live in New York City. I know everyone's like, oh, the men aren't ready to settle. They are. I meet so many great guys, right? But when women get bitter and jaded and they're still hung up on some unavailable ex, then they're blocking themselves from a potentially wonderful mate.
So true. And and plus, like when you're in that space, you're attracting the wrong men to you. Even on dating, it can feel your energy. So you set up a dating site, you set up this, and you're in that space and in that energy. It's no wonder you're having an issue because that's what you're attracting to you. And so until it's like that opens all the doors and opens the different attraction energies that now is you get a flood of quality men that you get to choose from. You know, and they're coming to you, and like what you said, like you being that alluring, magnetic, radiant woman that is just draws men straight to you. So Love that. So thank you so, so much for sharing that, and amazing tips and strategies there. And I love that 5-step system that you have. And if women would like to get a hold of that, how do they get a hold of you? How do you help them? And I hear you're giving away an amazing free gift. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I basically run an 8-week program called Sacred Soulmate System. And it takes women through this 5-step journey over an 8-week period. And what's cool is it's educational, but it's also interactive. I give a lot of meditation exercises, healing exercises. I partner people up. I have group calls. I mean, it's a very intense yet beautiful, heart-opening program. And so many women have just experienced miracles doing that course, you know, either meeting a great man or letting go of someone that finally doesn't serve them, just becoming happier, attracting jobs, like all sorts of stuff. So basically women can do my gift, which I'm sharing with your community for right now. It's a goddess archetype quiz. So basically you just take the quiz and you find out what Indian goddess archetype you are. That kind of gives you an idea of what signals you're sending to men or what types of men you're attracting, and gives you an idea of what blocks you might have to love. So I would say the best way is to follow the link that you provide to do the quiz. And then I'm going to be opening up the course sometime actually in April. And I'm not taking one-on-ones just yet because I'm actually going to be having a baby soon. So, you know, but through the program and through some one-on-one offerings through the program, women can get great support, like one-on-one support from me. And yeah, so that's basically the way.
Awesome. Beautiful. I love that. And for all of you listening, that link will be in the email. So go ahead and click that and take that quiz, because that's really gonna set you up for how you're showing up and put you on that path of being that goddess and that beautiful magnetic woman. So awesome. Love that, Sarika. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing and being open and vulnerable, and love that. And love what you do. So important. Thank you.